Welcome to Gold Coast Insider, where we bring you business insights, stories, opportunities, and forecasts from movers and shakers across the Gold Coast. I'm your host, Estella Rodiguero. I'm CEO of Regional Development Australia Gold Coast. It's my pleasure to welcome and introduce Duncan Jones. Duncan is the founder and CEO of Myriad Studios, a visual effects support company specialising in pre-visualisation, digital capture, animation and virtual reality, specifically for film, television and the gaming industries. It's based right here at Village Studios on the Gold Coast. And Myriad's customers include Disney, Warner Brothers and Netflix. Duncan's film experience extends for over 20 years. He's worked across Australia and the Pacific, not only in visual effects, but also sourcing locations for some of the biggest films to come to Australia, including Aquaman, Thor, Ragnarok, and Love and Monsters. His unique position in the industry has exposed him to some of the most beautiful and diverse landscapes, unique and unusual places, fascinating and famous people, and some of the most technically advanced filmmaking tools available. Welcome, Duncan. I'm really excited to talk to you today because the world you live in is really, really exciting, quite apart from the fact that you must meet some very famous people and work with them.
G'day, Estella. Yeah, every day is fantastic. It's almost like living a dream, you know, waking up and coming and doing all these really cool things in really cool places.
Yes, so let's start. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background? Let's get to know Duncan Jones and how that brought you to the Gold Coast, I guess.
Yeah, it's a myriad in itself, that story. But let's just say I ended up here in 1996. I was really lucky to arrive on the Gold Coast and very shortly after score myself a job at SeaWorld. And I started out just selling T-shirts by one of the rides there at SeaWorld. And I had a great interest in the ocean and the water. And before you know it, found myself as an apprentice dolphin trainer at SeaWorld, which is, you know, just a dream job. So that's how I sort of ended up on the Gold Coast. And from that moment, I mean, who can't love the Gold Coast? Coming here as a young kid and then all of a sudden being given these wonderful life opportunities. So, yeah, I think Gold Coast has got a lot to say about shaping me who I am.
Yeah, so you started off as a dolphin trainer, right, here on the Gold Coast. And then did you start working and then you started working in films, and I think that was around Flipper. And was that your sort of first foray into the film world?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I was lucky that I arrived at SeaWorld at a time when filming of the Flipper series was going on quite a lot. They had Dolphin Cove was a series that was done just before I started working there, and then not long after that, they started series 3 and 4 of Flipper on the Gold Coast. So yeah, I happened to be in the team of the guys that trained Flipper and managed Flipper whenever the film crews arrived. It was such a great experience.
So did you learn to train dolphins, and I think you train whales as well? Did you learn that right here on the Gold Coast at SeaWorld? Was that where your formative training was?
Yeah, I mean, there's no school for dolphin trainers anywhere in the world. So, yeah, I mean, these places, all these facilities over the time have, you know, they've built up their own tools and ways of looking after the animals. And at SeaWorld, it's really one of the best facilities in the world for animal care and husbandry. And I was lucky to get a job there.
Oh, excellent. So, you first picked up film in Flipper, and then I think you went off into film location management. Did you see a gap in the market around that? Is that where that took you, your career?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't that strategic. No, I mean, again, I'm still a young bloke, so I mean, the things that were happening in those days on Flipper was we would have the location managers would be our main person of interacting with the film companies, other than the actors. So they used to come down to the pools and hang out with us, and you know, say, okay, on this day the crew are arriving, and this is what we need you to do, and then they would happen to leave a box of beer in the fish kitchen where the fish was stored. And we used to think, that's fantastic. These guys are great. And I always thought, if I'm not doing dolphins, what would I do? Well, maybe I could do locations. And I left SeaWorld in about 2000 and I went to the Bahamas and I worked on some films over there training dolphins. And then I ended up in the south of France. And when I came back to Australia, I was not sure what to do. And I fell into film that way.
All right. So you first fell into film around that film location. I guess that then got you introduced to a wider group of people within that film industry. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, once you're on a film
Networks.
crew, you know, these are your family. You spend so much time with these guys, so you get to know everyone from the director down to the runners or up to the runners. The runners really run everything. Yeah, so spending all that time on location or in a studio with people, you get to know them really well.
Okay, so you also, one of the things that I've noticed about you is you have a real passion for the environment, the community, and the culture. And I think it was very much foremost in your head or in your brain when you were looking at around about that, developing a sustainable growth for the film industry, really here in locations in Australia. So you, so is that your professional and personal aim? Is to the location?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a lover of the environment and nature, and that's gone right back since I was very young, and that flowed then through my experience as an animal trainer and traveling in the world, and that then has since flowed into filmmaking. And almost everyone I know who does locations have that same passion. You know, we've got to protect the places that we film in because that's half the reason we go there. We've got to look after the people that are in those environments because, again, they're the ones that, you know, no matter whether they have the authority or not, they're really the gatekeepers. They're the ones who are going to send the message out on whether films should happen in their yard or not.
Yeah.
And then there's all that cultural stuff. You know, there's the whoever's endemic to that area, whether it's a traditional owners or it's some other community group, have a culture that resonates with that area. So in all aspects of filmmaking and like being on location, you have to think about those things. You've got to have this sustained mindset in terms of large scale film productions in local communities and on beautiful environments.
Which is what keeps people coming back to film here in Australia as well, isn't it? It's that whole environmental piece. It's the way we present. It's our community.
Well, one of the main reasons why people travel all over the world to come to the Gold Coast to film is because of our beautiful environments, and the Gold Coast is such a unique place to film because in any one direction within an hour, you've either got beautiful sandy beaches, you can get on a plane and go up to a Great Barrier Reef, you can go half an hour, western, you're up in these beautiful rainforests, which we've filmed all sorts of different films in, from King Kong through to Dora the Explorer. And then you've got cityscapes. We've got Brisbane, which we've cheated for New York on Thor Ragnarok, or there's downtown, Gold Coast that we can use for all sorts of different things. So the Gold Coast is a very easy selling destination from a location perspective.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, that makes the next question really easy. And I was going to say, what makes Village Roadshow Studios right here on the Gold Coast a desirable location for filmmakers? So I guess you can take that one step further now.
Well, I mean, if we look about just the numbers, it's the biggest sound stage in the Southern Hemisphere. So, on a square meter basis, we have 9 fantastic world-class sound stages themselves. The big sheds where we're filming, they're all, air conditioned and light proof and soundproof. And we have a huge amount of air around those sound stages, which we can do all our logistics. So parking our vehicles, catering, we can build film sets outside and up the back of these stages. So when a filmmaker, say, comes from America and they're looking around for the infrastructure to support a film, they need all those things. They need great sound stages. They need great places to film. But on top of that, on the Gold Coast, we've got, about 9,000 fantastic filmmakers that live down here. So, it's a pretty easy thing to add up once you see all those things together.
Yeah, so it really is all the environment, all the services are there in one area, essentially. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's become a very sustained, good business to have on the Gold Coast. We, not just the 9,000 people that it feeds, but there's all the fringing businesses that support that. Everywhere from the timber hardware guys that supply the basic structures to the film sets, the nuts and bolts guys. There's the fuel companies that supply all the fuel for the film trucks. Catering, I've been on films where some days the catering department's feeding about 2,000 people between the crew and the background extras. That's a lot of potatoes. So all those things, are fantastic for the Gold Coast.
So it's not just the film that brings in the dollars. It's all that supply chain that comes in underneath it. which
It's
is
massive.
direct benefit to the Gold Coast. It's bigger than before. And 9,000 people, you said, around about.
Yeah, that's a number I've heard sort of bantered around. I'm sure it's pretty close to that. And that's a very diverse range of skill sets in that, because a film is almost like an army. It needs every little bit of skill to make it run. So we've got everything from IT guys. There's huge accounts departments, people who do all the accounting and the bookkeeping and payroll, right through to the managerial side of things, people who organise people to organise people. Transport. Then we've got all the carpenters and all the painters and all those, trades, electricians. And then there's the skills sets, so the camera guys, the lighting guys, the grips guys, locations, that sort of thing.
That's
it's
amazing.
pretty cool.
So we now move from your film location management, and we move into Myriad Studios. Now, this is the most fascinating and most exciting part, that you founded Myriad Studios, which is a visual effects support company. Talk me through that, what Myriad is and what you do, and what the thinking is behind that.
Yeah, so Myriad came about because we're now in this really unusual, this really fantastic time in filmmaking history, where we really are maximizing every digital tool and every film tech tool that's available. And so Myriad is a hardware and software support company that sort of fills the gap between the camera crew when they're filming and the post-production visual effects houses that take all the raw digital data and animate the film on the back end. So we have a team on the Gold Coast that we travel all over the world now with a range of different tools and cameras and cool things, drones, and we scan and model environments so that they can be used in every stage of the filmmaking pipeline. But what's really cool about us is that we're 100% Australian. We're all here on the Gold Coast, and we're now, our clients are Disney and Warner Brothers, as you said at the opening. So, yeah.
So it's closely aligned to animation in film, isn't it? Like, my understanding, like, I've been out there and I've had the 600 photos taken of me. You probably can put that more technical. So can you just explain that part?
Yeah, I mean, one of the tools in our belt is what we call a cyber scanner. So it's a multi-camera photogrammetry rig, if I want to put it technically. The one that you stepped into had just over 100 cameras, but we've got a bigger one now that is in the back of a big truck, and it drives all over Australia and does the same thing. And the idea is that all the cameras are facing inwards. So if you can imagine you're stepping inside a bubble and all the cameras are pointing into the bubble, we trigger this thing. It goes off at 0.25 of a second, and all these flashes go off at the same time, and we can instantly capture you from all angles, shapes and sizes. So there's nothing hiding. And we use each of those photos as a stitch. We put them all together to make a three-dimensional model. So it's really effective to recreating actors. So, for example, if it was a Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man would step into the rig, we'd take his photo, and then our team would simultaneously be going out to the location, say it's downtown Brisbane, to turn into New York. And we would also LiDAR scan and photograph it in a way that can be then turned into these perfectly, photorealistic 3D models.
So can it move? Can you move the 3D models, Duncan? Like,
yeah.
Can you animate? So in that 3D model, is that an animate? You can animate that so that I can climb up the side of buildings and things, or not? Is that how it works?
Well, maybe not you, Estella, but we can definitely get Spider-Man.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Once it's in that 3D space in a computer, then anything that you could imagine can happen in that world. So we can run you up the walls, or we can have the walls fall down. But that information there is something we don't necessarily play with, although we can, but we'd rather send that off then to the very experienced visual effects houses. So Rising Sun Pictures or Industrial Light and Magic, for example, those guys then take this raw information, and that's where they use it to extend the film. So
it's a product that you're supplying, but you can also use it in medical technology too, haven't you? Because I think have you been working very closely with Griffith University or not?
Yeah, no, we have. We've had a great collaboration with those guys for the last 18 months now, I think, where they've had quite a few projects. They've had the Digital Athlete is one that they've been doing, which is taking the biometric data of athletes and then seeing what the load impacts are of those athletes. And we've helped, I suppose, put a bit of Hollywood touch to that process by being able to scan their athletes. Then they've got the true physical and photographic representation of that athlete, and they can then carry on their studies that way. So that's been really cool, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we've also been doing stuff with, they've got another project there called BioSpine, which is people who impaired or in a wheelchair. We've been scanning those people and then helping them become able-bodied and upright using our technology. So visually, obviously in a three-dimensional VR space, but yeah, it's all part of a bigger plan that they've got out of Griffith, and we're happy to be a little part of that.
You just presented. You just presented at the world's largest gaming festival. Is that correct? Right here on the
pretty
Gold
close.
Coast.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's called Unreal Fest. It's for all you the gamers out there, they would understand Epic Games have quite a large festival each year or a big conference each year, and it happened to be on the Gold Coast the last few days. So we had a great time being down there and sharing some of our experiences with the gaming technology, because obviously gaming and film now are merging across the digital tech. And they're really they're complementing each other. So the gamers are really interested to hear what we get up to, and we're really interested to hear how they use what they do. And we're constantly working out and innovating what we do to see how there's always a better way to do something, isn't there? So so we're constantly pushing that boundary.
So Duncan, what part of Myriad is gaming, and what part is filming? Is there such a do you have segments within your industry?
In Myriad we don't. No, it's all one
Okay.
and the same, really. Yeah, the technology is
right across the board.
Yeah, it's they flip and change. It doesn't matter. But I suppose when we've got the games up on the telly, we're having fun.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Now you must have an amazing team. Look, Myriad must be one of the most exciting places to work on the Gold Coast for these up and coming young gamers and creative minds. So how does your team work, and do you have them lining up for jobs, I guess, is a question.
Yeah, I've got a lot of young people constantly trying to get internships with us, and to be honest, the bulk of the crew that we have here have come from internships that have spent some time with us. It's such a unique skill set that we have at Myriad. It's something that you can't pick out of a university degree, because the guys at any one time might be handling cameras or strobes or lighting, and then they're going off into the field and using drones, or they could be then on the computers and processing that data or pushing it through different forms of software. So they're very, very talented bunch of people in the team. And they come from sort of all over the place, but the bulk of them are all Gold Coasters that work here at Myriad. But yeah, now they're all over the place. We did a job last year in New York. We've just come off a massive film called The Fall Guy in Sydney. And we're doing a lot of the projects that are coming through Village Roadshow right now.
So do you have to do all those on site? Do you have to go on site for all these jobs?
Yeah. So again, we're there on the film sets to capture digitally what's happening on the film set. So we're almost like forensic investigators in some way, because we're scanning everything so that there is a record in 3D of what's happening on set at any one time. Filmmaking's moved a long way from that two-dimensional screen where you see everything flat.
Yeah.
We're now at a stage where directors want to take the audience through an environment, and flying through it and or going around it. And so by having these 3D models and this 3D information, they can do that.
Wow. So if I was someone young listening to this, what sort of courses would you say are beneficial to getting into this industry? What would they undertake leaving school, do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
set them on the course.
Yeah, I mean, almost all the universities offer some kind of film or gaming course, or even the TAFEs. The Coomera TAFE's fantastic. So just have an interest in that. But it's all the other stuff that comes along the way. And we teach the team what it's like to be on a film set and how to stand in the right place so that you're not in the middle of the camera shot or your phone doesn't ring when the sound guy's recording. So all that other stuff is critical to the skill base, but just having, I suppose, a 3D mindset, loving gaming, loving hanging out, having fun in really unusual places, and being prepared to change is probably the biggest thing. Yeah, I mean, that's a very hard thing to teach someone, but just to be, 1 minute you're doing this and next minute I'm going to ask you to do that, and it's okay. Don't worry about that. We're now moving on to this, because that's what film crews do.
Yeah. So are you on site, like, would you be on site and away for long periods of time? I mean, do you spend a lot of time on these films?
Yeah, I mean, a film itself, once the cameras are rolling, they can range in anywhere from sort of an 8-week shoot through to 16 weeks. Aquaman, I was working on that for 14 months. So,
okay.
So depending on, the need of the film, we've got to remember that filmmaking is also a very creative process, and you can't schedule a creation always. So, that's what's, again, very fun and unique about being a filmmaker.
So what do you see the next move in this being for your company? Where do you see it going? Like, what's the next progression? Or is it, obviously there's going to be one, but probably more animation will be heavier in the film.
There's no one thing I think that I could say to that, other than constantly keeping our thumb on the pulse with all forms of technology. We're heavily involved now in AI research in terms of how that's applying with filmmaking. I mean, that's been around for a while. It's just now that we're looking at it in a different way. I mean, again, we've got to remember that making a movie is really just telling a story. And so all these cool things that we have in Myriad and all the cool things that you see in the back of film trucks is purely hardware for a director to have a way of telling a story better. Yeah. And so us, when we go onto film sets, are constantly questioning, is this the best way of doing it, or can we find another way, or how can we improve this? Because, again, the big guys like Disney and Warner's and anyone who comes along to make a film, they don't want to be doing the same thing on this film as the last film. They want to be able to say to the audience, this is new and unique. And that's what, again, we love at Myriad, is that we're constantly pushing that boundary and innovating and trying new things. And that's now extending into other industries on the Gold Coast. We've got interest from defence and medical, and I'm sure the space guys would be pretty cool to find out what we can get up to. There's lots of applications out of Myriad.
Excellent. So what do you see as the challenges and opportunities for the Gold Coast moving forward? And I guess within your industry, probably.
Yeah, I think it's the same as almost all industries right now. It's a skill-based.
Yeah, okay.
That's the greatest challenge, and we take on lots of interns, and we love sharing that knowledge. We also spend a lot of time having walkthroughs, and so I think we've got a TAFE crew coming through next week. So just exposing people to the industry and for them to understand that there is a career path here, and it can happen here in amazing Gold Coast. That at the end of your day, you can go for a surf or go down to Burleigh and watch the sunset is pretty special, and then come to work and do all these amazing things at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not many places in the world like that.
I know. And I guess that leads me to my final question, and that is, what keeps you on the Gold Coast?
Well, I've got an amazing family who support me through this amazing journey that we have. So that's a great thing. Got some amazing friends, but purely it comes down to the fact that within that half hour, we can go down the beach, we could get in a boat, I can still go and visit my friends at SeaWorld. And we've got this incredible climate and a great work base. I can't see why,
it wouldn't be anywhere else, eh?
Yeah. Well, there's a few other places, but, this is pretty good.
It's up there. It's up high anyway, isn't it?
That's right.
Look, it's been really great to talk to you and catch up with you and hear how much you're doing and how you're positioning from a couple of years ago when we first met. I think it was pre-COVID, wasn't it? We first met.
It would have been, yeah.
And how much it's grown in that time, and the diversity, how you've diversified in that time. It's been really amazing, and just can't wait to see what else comes your way. And I mean, it's companies like you that are positioning the Gold Coast as well. So, it's giving us a different mix of business and economy, and I think it's really important.
Yeah. I mean, I always say that, I'm just a small part of a much bigger organization, and that Myriad wouldn't be here today if it wasn't from the support of, the Gold Coast as a city, and the actual council, and, going right through to Queensland government as well. There's a lot of support there. And then all the filmmakers I've known all the years, they now see what we do, and they are also coming in and supporting. So, yeah, filmmaking is a big family experience.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, and all the best.
Thanks very much.
Soon.
Thanks for having us, Estella. It's been great.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today. For a complete list of podcast episodes and transcripts, go to rdagoldcoast.org.au/podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter.